They say that life can change in a single day. I never truly believed it, until the day I became a millionaire's wife, if only for 24 hours. It all began on a quiet morning in the city. I was rushing to work at the small cafe where I'd been serving coffee and pastries for nearly 3 years. My life was simple, predictable, and sometimes a little lonely. I lived in a modest apartment, barely made ends meet, and often wondered if there was something more waiting for me beyond the grind of long hours and endless bills. That morning, as I hurried across the street balancing a tray of fresh croissants, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the cafe. It was the kind of car you'd expect to see in glossy magazines, not parked outside our humble corner shop. From the driver's seat emerged a man in a perfectly tailored suit. He was tall, confident, and carried an air of importance I couldn't quite place. The regular customers immediately began whispering. I tried not to stare, but when he stepped inside, his presence filled the room. His gaze swept across the cafe before landing on me. "You," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "Are you the manager here?" Flustered, I shook my head. "No, sir, I just work here. Can I help you?" He studied me for a moment, then gave a small smile. "Perhaps you can." He introduced himself as Adrian Cole, a name I didn't recognize at first. But the other barista whispered excitedly in my ear, "That's Adrian Cole, the billionaire investor. He owns half the city." I almost dropped the tray in my hands. A billionaire? Here? Talking to me? Adrian explained that he had a very unusual request. He needed someone, immediately, without delay, to accompany him to an important charity gala that evening. Not just as a guest, but as his wife. I blinked, sure I had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" He chuckled softly. "I know how it sounds, but circumstances require me to arrive with a wife, and unfortunately, I don't have one. The press will be there, investors, partners, appearances matter. I can't go alone, so I need someone trustworthy, and something tells me you'd fit the part." My first instinct was to refuse. It was absurd. I was just a cafe worker with no experience in high society. But there was something in his eyes, steady, unwavering, that made me pause. "Why me?" I finally asked. "Because you're honest," he replied simply. "And I'd rather have someone genuine by my side than anyone who sees me as just a bank account." I hesitated, torn between common sense and curiosity. He must have sensed my fear because he quickly added, "It's just one evening, 24 hours. You'll be well compensated, of course. But more importantly, you'll be helping me out of a difficult situation." Against all logic, I agreed. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Adrian's assistant whisked me away to a boutique where I was fitted for an elegant gown. A stylist worked on my hair. A makeup artist brushed color onto my face. By the time I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Gone was the tired barista with flour on her apron. In her place stood a woman who looked like she belonged in the pages of a fashion magazine. That evening, Adrian arrived at my apartment to escort me. He looked flawless in a dark tuxedo, his sharp features softened by a warm smile. "Shall we?" he asked, offering his arm. The gala was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, violins played softly in the background, and waiters carried trays of champagne. Everyone seemed to know Adrian, greeting him with respect and admiration. And then there was me, his wife for a day. At first, I stumbled through conversations, nervous and out of place, but Adrian stayed close, guiding me gently, introducing me with confidence that made others treat me as though I truly belonged. Every time I felt overwhelmed, he would lean down and whisper reassuring words only I could hear. "You're doing beautifully," he said once, after I had nervously chatted with a famous author. Somehow his presence steadied me, but what surprised me most wasn't the luxury or the glamour. It was Adrian himself. Beneath the polished exterior of wealth and power, he was surprisingly kind. He spoke with passion about the charities he supported, the children's hospitals he funded, the scholarships he provided. He laughed easily, not the rehearsed laugh of someone pretending to be likable, but the genuine laughter of a man who still found joy in the world. And slowly, I found myself laughing with him. At one point during a dance, I caught his gaze. The world around us seemed to fade, and for a fleeting moment, I forgot this was all pretend. I forgot I was only his wife for a single night. I only knew that standing there, with his hand lightly guiding me across the floor, I felt seen in a way I never had before. But reality returned swiftly. As the night came to an end and we drove back to my apartment, silence settled between us. The agreement had been clear from the beginning. 24 hours, nothing more. When the car stopped in front of my building, Adrian turned to me. For the first time, he looked uncertain. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You were extraordinary tonight. I couldn't have asked for anyone better." I smiled, though my heart felt heavy. "It was an honor. Really." He hesitated, as if wanting to say more, but instead nodded. "Good night." I stepped out of the car, the night air cool against my skin. I half expected to wake up the next morning and find it had all been a dream. But the gown hanging in my closet reminded me it had been real. Days passed and life at the cafe returned to normal. But my thoughts often drifted back to Adrian. I told myself it was silly. After all, he was a billionaire and I was just me. Our worlds were too different. Still, I couldn't shake the memory of how it felt to be by his side. Then, one afternoon, the black car appeared outside the cafe once more. My heart raced as Adrian stepped out, just as effortlessly composed as before. He entered the shop, ignoring the stares of curious customers, and walked straight up to me. "Forgive me," he said, his voice steady, but his eyes softer than I remembered. "But I realized something that night. I don't want a wife just for a day. I'd like to know if there's a chance. For more than that. For something real." The cafe was silent around us, all eyes on this unexpected scene. My hands trembled, but deep down, I knew my answer. Sometimes life does change in a single day. Sometimes a moment of pretend opens the door to something true. And that was the day I began a new journey. Not as a millionaire's wife for a day, but as a woman who had found unexpected love in the most impossible place.